Today we'll put the Nissan Ariya head-to-head with a Tesla Model Y. We'll take our family of 5 on a 500-mile road trip in the Ariya to test range, utility, charging speeds, and cargo capacity to see who's best in class.
The electric crossover SUV space is starting to get crowded, so today we are comparing the best-selling car in the world, the Tesla Model Y, to the car with the highest consumer satisfaction rating, the Nissan Ariya. But it's not selling. Let's dive into it. So my name is Kim Java. I've been driving electric cars for about 10 years, and my first car was actually a Nissan Leaf, so I'm really excited to take a look at the Nissan Ariya, which is definitely a big step up from the Nissan Leaf. My daily driver right now is a Tesla Model X, and we also own a Model 3, so check out my playlist with all my electric car reviews, but let's get right into the Ariya.
Side by side, these two EVs have a near identical footprint, as only 1 inch separates the two in both height and width, with the Model Y being the longest of the two by only 4 inches. The long-range Model Y packs a 77 kilowatt-hour battery with a rated range of 330 miles, while the long-range Ariya packs an 87 kilowatt-hour battery with 304 rated miles of range. We've seen Tesla overpromise its range, so let's find out how the Ariya stacks up later in this video. The starting price for the long-range Model Y is a little over $50,000, while the long-range Ariya is around $48,000. The Model Y claims to be the best-selling car in the world, while the Ariya was recently ranked first by J.D. Power for highest driver satisfaction from owners for both driver experience and exceeding expectations.
So starting off with the front of it, you can see that it is definitely a sportier look than we've seen before. It is a wider stance. They've really tried to make it more aerodynamic. So right here, I love these aerodynamic tunnels we see right off the front. And then if we go into what would be a grille, but we don't have a grille, we have the shield right up front because it's an electric car. If you look really, really close, there's a pattern in there. It's a design. This is actually where they've tried to put some of their Japanese heritage into the vehicle. This is called Kumiko. The design is actually inspired by Japanese woodwork. I think it's really cool that with the Ariya, they're trying to put some of this heritage into this vehicle. We're going to see more of that on the inside as well. But I do like this low, wide stance that we have with it. I think that it's a nice, sporty look. The headlights just kind of wrap around the sides right here.
Before we dive into the Ariya, I want to thank Domain Money for sponsoring this portion of the video. So I've got a pretty hectic life. I have 3 small kids, I've gone full-time on YouTube, and I just don't have a lot of time to worry about my finances. I've always wanted a financial advisor to handle all this stuff for me, but I was scared off by the large investment fees and the huge minimums, and then I found Domain Money. Domain Money gives you access to your own dedicated financial advisor to handle your entire financial life, from investing and savings investing to insurance and taxes. My domain advisor, Adriana, has really reduced my financial stress and all the mental bandwidth that it takes to keep up with it. She gives me money advice in plain English that's tailored to my unique situation with no buzzwords and no jargon. I can message, I can call, I can video her whenever I want. She's really like my financial therapist. Domain is really perfect for anyone in their 30s or millennials who want to focus on their careers or families and not on their finances. The best part is Domain Money only costs $79 a month and there's no hidden fees or investment minimums. It comes with a 5% APY savings account and they prepare and file your taxes included in the membership. Just use my link in the description to skip the wait list and book your free session today. All right, let's get back to the Ariya.
It's also important to note that the model we have today is their Venture Plus, and the Venture Plus does give you the best mileage. It has 304 miles of range, but you do lose out on some of the more upscale looking trims. We'll get more into that when we get into the inside of the vehicle. We have the 19-inch stock wheels that we're looking at today, and they have an aero cover on them. We're trying to get the best efficiency with this vehicle. So the charger is right here on the passenger side, and you actually just push it to open it. On top, we have the J1772, and then on the bottom, we have the CCS charger. Now, they are going to be making that transition to Tesla chargers in 2025. That is the NACS charger we're hearing a lot about, and they're going to be giving an adapter to current owners. So in 2024, current owners will get the adapter, and then in 2025, they'll actually change it to the NACS charger. So what's interesting about this is that the peak charging speed of this vehicle is 130 kilowatts. That's about half of what the Model Y Y is. So it's actually pretty slow to charge up. So we're gonna be testing that out later in this video. So it does have pretty standard conventional door handles that you would see in a lot of their other vehicles. This is not what we would typically see in an EV. Most EVs nowadays have a door handle that's flush with the body, a little more aerodynamic. This one is just, you know, standard door handle. However, it does have the keyless entry. You can use that to open and close. It also has the 3 little lines right here. You can use this to lock or unlock your car as long as you have the key with you. So moving to the rear of the car, which is actually my favorite part of it, we have this big piece of glass that kind of goes all the way across, and you can see Nissan is actually behind the glass. Now, the brake lights are underneath here, and it gives you this nice little light bar, and it's almost like this smoked out brake look with your Nissan Ariya, which I think is really cool. We also have these vents right here to give it that more aerodynamic design, another light right here for the brake, and then the badging right in the back, we have the Venture Plus. Now the Plus indicates a larger battery, and honestly the trim levels get really confusing.
Nissan offers a whopping 10 different trim levels with the Ariya, and each comes with a combination of features not available in other trims. The one we have, the Venture Plus, is Nissan's longest range offering, but the high range trim is only available in front wheel drive and only with cloth seats and no sunroof. You could get an all-wheel drive and a heads-up display for basically the same price, but you'll have to settle for a smaller 63 kilowatt-hour pack and only 205 miles of range. If you want the bigger battery with all-wheel drive, it's yours for $51,000, but your range only tops at 272 miles. And if you want the best Nissan has to offer, the $60,000 trim will give you all-wheel drive, bigger battery, 20-inch wheels, Bose sound system, and Nappa leather heated and cooled seats. But the flagship model only gets you 257 miles of range.
So this trim level that we have today is priced right around $49,000, but it does not qualify for the $7,500 tax credit, and that's kind of a sore spot for them. With the Leaf, they have a factory in Tennessee. They do get the credit. This car that we're seeing today is actually built in Japan, so you don't get that tax credit. Again, at this price point, this is what you're getting. We have a manual open. Now, other trim levels, you do get, there's a kick sensor, there's other options, but again, you're gonna pay more and you actually lose out on some range with those. So today, we're giving you the best range. This is how I think a lot of people are gonna configure the car, because they're gonna wanna get, you know, the best value and the most range. I think that's really important to a lot of families. So let's look at the cargo capacity inside of the Ariya. So you might notice right away there is no cover here, and that is because we rented this vehicle off of Turo. So the owner of this vehicle actually has a small rental company with a couple different electric vehicles. We're going to link his business down below. Definitely go check him out and support him. But going into the cargo capacity, it's a boxier rear end than the Model Y. So that means that you can actually pile up higher things inside of the back of the car. But with the Model Y, you actually have a larger opening.
The Ariya offers 60 cubic feet of cargo capacity, while the Model Y, 76 cubic feet.
If you open this area up, there is a spot for a spare tire in here, and then you can actually take this out and you can get a little bit more storage area. Now this is not designed to be used this way, so it doesn't look pretty, but you know, if you needed that extra space, you definitely could do that as well. There are small wheel wells on the side of the vehicle as well. You can store a little bit over the wheel on here. With the Model Y, it's super deep. You do have a little bit of extra space there that I think is pretty nice. And the seats fold flat, but you do have to do that from the second row. So you can see I'm laying flat right now. I'm about 5'5", and my head is kind of hanging over the edge. So I don't think that this is the vehicle that you would want to go car camping in, where the Model Y, you can actually comfortably sleep in the back of it. Some interesting things I've noticed with the Ariya. One is that they don't have a 12-volt outlet in the back of the car. I feel like most of the mid-size SUVs that we're seeing nowadays have some kind of outlet just in the trunk of the vehicle. Also, to close it, it's surprisingly heavy. Also, there's no front trunk, so let's take a look at what is actually up there. So to open it, you actually have to push this little yellow lever, And you can see it actually looks a lot like a gas car in here. They put a lot of the internal workings. This car has a heat pump. We have the HVAC system up here. But not having a front trunk, you know, you obviously lose out on the cargo capacity, but also that acts as a crumple zone, which is really nice with a lot of the other EVs that they include that, because it helps if you were ever to get into a front end collision. So for me, it's really a bummer when a vehicle doesn't have a front trunk, because I do use that space. I use it for a stroller. I use it for takeout food. The smell doesn't go into the cabin of the vehicle. Now, I know a lot of consumer research shows that people don't use the front trunks, but I think as parents out there do end up using it quite a bit. All right, so purse, water bottle, and phone. Let's do this. All right, so Nissan Ariya. My first thought when I step inside this car is actually that it's kind of underwhelming. But then when I take a closer look, I actually notice there's a lot of really nice details throughout the car. And one of them is, again, this Japanese heritage that they've tried to implement throughout the vehicle. We see this Kumiko pattern on the doors of the cars. And I really like that they've carried this through the entire vehicle. We do have the basic controls on the door here as well. On the front of the dash of the car, we have this synthetic wood. It's a matte finish. And then you have these capacitive touch controls right here, which is really kind of like a plastic, but I definitely like this more than a gloss. It doesn't leave fingerprints. And then they also have some of the controls in the center right here. This one though is more of a push, but you do get that haptic feel when you push down on them. We also have dual 12.3-inch display up here. This serves as your gauge cluster and your infotainment screen. It has Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, actually has Amazon Alexa built in, but we're going to dive more into that during our road trip with our kids. There are also some quirky features in this vehicle with this trim level that are completely different when you get into some of the higher trim levels, and I'm going to show you some of those. So first off, we have your typical glove box right here. And then next to it, this area right here is actually like a second glove box. Now in the higher trim levels, this is actually motorized. There's a button over here that you push for it, and then it almost has like a little table on top of it as well. Now again, this is not for your sunglasses. There's actually an area up here for your sunglasses. I do love having that. This is just extra storage, and I think they give you the storage here because you don't get it in here. Normally there would be some extra storage. I know with Tesla, you're able to put things like baby wipes, all that right here. Also with this trim level, this is not actually a charger. This is just a place for you to store your phone. I personally don't like that because when I close this, my phone is hidden. And when I'm distracted, guess what? I just walk out of the car and then I'm like, where's my phone? Hours later. So let's go into this console, which they do refer to as a movable table. However, in this trim level, it does not move. So if that's a feature that you really like, you do have to sacrifice some range to be able to get that. Again, this one, it's here. It doesn't move. Also, it doesn't have all the same buttons on it. We just have the drive mode and the E-step, which is how you're going to get your regen braking. The shifter is kind of how Nissan does their shifters, pretty similar. If you're coming from Tesla, it does take a second to adjust to it. I keep wanting to push on here to park my car. Even though you don't have the wireless charger here, you do have some outlets down here. You have the USB-A, the USB-C, and we have a 12-volt. Also with this car, there are a lot of Easter eggs inside of it that I think is pretty fun. It's probably the most Easter eggs I've seen other than Tesla and Rivian. And we talked a little bit about that Kumiko pattern. So look down here, we have again that Kumiko pattern, but this actually lights up and gives a soft ambient glow, kind of like that paper lantern that you see. Again, they've tried to put a lot of the Japanese heritage into this car. Also inside right here, we have this flower, which is actually a Japanese cherry blossom right here, just giving more of that heritage to the car. Down below, we see another cherry blossom down here. So as far as space and comfort, I do feel like, you know, it feels large when you're inside of it. Compared to the Tesla Model Y, it feels wider. I definitely feel like I have all this extra space down by my feet. I could probably fit about 3 kids' backpacks right down here. So that's nice to be able to have this open area. That's something that I always like when cars do that. You know, it doesn't bother me that this thing doesn't move in this trim level. Actually, that's something I probably wouldn't really use much. It's kind of gimmicky, I think. But as far as space goes, you know, it feels pretty open. Now with this trim level, we do not have a sunroof. That is something that kind of opens things up. We have that with the Tesla Model Y. We don't have it here. And then the seats are cloth. There's not an option with this trim level to upgrade your seats. And I think that's kind of a bummer, honestly. I would like a higher quality seat. But with that said, they are very comfortable. So the steering wheel is leather, and I do like that. It actually feels like a premium steering wheel. It even has this little divider that we do see on higher end cars. And as far as buttons, the only buttons are actually on the steering wheel. So there are some controls right here. We have our ProPilot, which is one of their safety features, their driver assist features. On the left side, we do have the volume control, which you also have a dial right here for that, as well as being able to toggle between some of the displays on your screen. At this price point, I really feel like the seat should be motorized. It actually just has those manual levers that you have to use to adjust your seats. And again, this is just kind of underwhelming. Okay, so let's go check out the back seat now. I have so much leg room in here. Now this seat was configured to how I was driving in it, and I have almost a foot in front of me, so there's a lot of room for someone that's taller to drive and then still have kids or an adult even behind them. Really comfortable seats. Now right up front right here, you can see we have the USB-C and then we have the USB-A. A lot of cars are starting to just get rid of the USB-A altogether, but you know, people are still using them, so I guess Nissan has decided to include that with the Ariya. I would like to see another USB-C back here as well, but you know, this is what it is. There's pockets on the back of the seats. And the best part is if you have kids, you'll notice that we actually have places for latch across all the seats back here, even the middle seat. I'm going to be installing a car seat later when we go on our road trip, so I'll definitely show you how that fits in here as well with my 3 kids. From this side, you can really see the headrest on here and this angular design. You definitely get that premium design feel with this car, but for some reason when it's cloth, it kind of takes away. Also with kids, I feel like cloth is not really a great choice. Now the owner rents this on Turo, and there already are some stains on the seats, and I can only imagine if this was the car that you were driving your kids around, how much worse that would get. So this is definitely kind of interesting. Down here it says warning high voltage area. This is the middle seat on the back row. Now this is not super unique. We saw this with the Jeep 4xe, where you could actually lift up the seat and then we had the battery underneath it. Now that was a hybrid, so it's a much smaller battery, but just something to think about. On the doors we have this pattern. Again, we're seeing it over the speakers on here. I do like the stitching that's included on this trim level. I don't love the roof of the car. I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like this sort of cheapens and dates the car. I wish that this was, again, like an Alcantara, and I believe on the premium trim levels they don't even have the Alcantara up here either, and that's just something that hopefully Nissan will do with some of their future vehicles. Also important to note that there's no hidden compartment in the center seat that folds down to give the back passengers extra cup holders. The only cup holders are actually in the door of the car, so this is really it. No cup holders in here, just the door of the car. I want to share with you guys something really interesting about the charging. So let's go ahead and charge this right now. Take a look at this screen right here. This is the only charge information that I have. You can see there's 2 hours, 55 minutes until I charge to 100%. There's no option or nothing in here where I can adjust the state of charge that I want to charge it to. It only charges to 100%. So remember when I told you that this car has an 87 kilowatt hour battery pack? That is the usable battery. It actually has a 91 kilowatt hour battery pack, but the rest is a buffer. And Nissan feels that when you charge to 100% with that buffer, that is enough to be able to take care of the battery, and they're fine with that. They don't give you the other options like you have with Tesla.
Of course, the Model Y has an 82 kilowatt hour pack, 77 of which are usable, meaning there's a 6% buffer built in, while the Ariya's 91 kilowatt hour pack, 87 of which are usable, means there's a 4.5% buffer. Tesla still recommends a 90% daily charge on most of its EVs, so as a Tesla owner, it felt strange letting the car charge fully every single night.
I'm curious, for those of you that own this car, if you have left it for several weeks, if that does affect your battery. There are some additional settings in here where you can adjust the time and the hours that you charge it, so that might be an option, but you know, it's just something to think about.
charge, the Ariya showed 316 miles of range. Over the next 4 hours, we will drive this car almost to empty and get a good feel for that estimate.
So I just came to my first traffic light and I am way over the line. I was expecting a little more regen braking. I had turned on E-Step, which is their, maximum regen braking, but it's definitely very different than Tesla. My foot came off the accelerator and the car just kept going until I actually put my foot on the brake. So no one pedal driving here.
Once you enter your destination, the car does map your charging stops and provides your estimated state of charge on arrival. But being the savvy EV road trippers that we are, we checked PlugShare and couldn't find the same charger on the app.
But on Google, it says station is temporarily closed, so the car clearly didn't get the memo, and it wants to take us to a charging station that is inoperable right now. So we'll have to detour to another station.
Thank goodness they have decided to switch over to NACS. Hopefully things will be a lot smoother. But it's also important to note that it's not really CCS's fault that the chargers are down. It's really the companies that manage them. So if those companies are going to be putting NACS chargers at their charging station, potentially, there could be problems with that too.
Another oddity we found was that even though Nissan doesn't let you manually choose your desired charge percentage, deep in the menu it does allow you to manually turn on the battery heater, improving fast charging performance. But again, this isn't an automatic feature like Tesla, but you do have to remember to preheat your battery if you want to maximize your charging speeds. Now, one of the more enjoyable features we ended up using on nearly the entire road trip was Nissan's autopilot equivalent, what it calls ProPilot. It was easy to use and allowed for complete level 2 autonomy with hands-free driving and generally did a great job keeping speed, distance, and lane position, though it did struggle a bit on windy roads.
The ProPilot is enabled right now. You can see the green steering wheel is on, but what happens when you go to turn lanes is a little different than Tesla. So as I turn lanes, you can see that ProPilot turns off for a second, and I can manually turn lanes right here. Now when I turn off the turn signal, give it a couple seconds, ProPilot turns back on its own. I don't have to manually go back in and do that, and that's kind of where it differentiates from Tesla.
As the drive continued, it was clear that the Ariya was going to easily reach or even possibly exceed its EPA-rated range of 304 miles.
So this screen right here is actually pretty unresponsive. I think nowadays we're used to touch screens that kind of automatically do what you're asking it to do, and this one doesn't do that. Also, it's really hard to find the charger information, the actual charger, not just the address. And I know that they have that information, and it's weird that it doesn't put it right there. And the nice thing about all these tech cars is that they do get those updates, so they can take care of some of these little nuances with an update.
Another feature I thought I would like was the volume knob, but as it turned out, every so often while adjusting volume that way, your hand would tap the capacitive touch buttons below and turn HVAC off.
But I will say, in terms of range estimates, this car has been spot on. You know how some cars either overestimate or underestimate? It's not the case with Nissan. It is spot on, which has been pretty cool. Here we go. All right, going to be opening up the top and the bottom here. This cable is huge. Connecting to vehicle, fingers crossed, everything works. Payment authorized, initiating charging. Yay!
Are you surprised?
Kind of, that it has been very easy, so that's good. That's really good to see. All right, let's go look inside the car and see what kind of speeds we're getting.
At about 30% state of charge, the Ariya was able to peak around 90 kilowatts of charging. The car is rated for 130 and the charging station was one of the faster ones at 350. A lower SoC may have helped us a bit, but the Ariya's slower charging speeds are one of its biggest downsides. The Mach-E can charge at 150 kilowatts, while the Ioniq 5, EV6, and Model Y can all charge at least 250 kilowatts. The ID4 is the only competitor with a slower charging rate of 125 kilowatts.
We're looking for Teslas. Shouldn't we be looking for the Ariya? Of course, they have a Dollar General right next to the charger, so, we're killing time.
It took us over 40 minutes to charge from 30 to 90% in the Ariya.
This is cracking me up. We have a Kia EV6, which is tied with this car for satisfaction, and then we have the Ford Mach-E right over there. It's
it's kind of funny to see them all side by side. After driving the Ariya with the family for nearly a week, it's no surprise to me why owners love it. It looks good with a beautiful and sporty design and definitely stands out in the sea of other more common EVs. Its ProPilot driver assist features gains your confidence and was reliable and easy to use. It's also a very quiet and comfortable ride, and most importantly, its rated range not only meets what you're promised, but exceeds it as well. But the reason it may not be selling could be a few things. For one, it has one of the most confusing and almost overwhelming trim options. To get an interior and features that fully match the competition, you'll have to settle for far less range and a much higher price tag, which just makes no sense.
So I think what's really holding this car back are, one, the price of it. It is about $49,000 and it doesn't get the tax incentives. So it's actually more expensive than the Model Y, but then with the Model Y, you're still getting a lot of premium features that you don't get at this trim level. And I think that really sets the two apart. Now, if Nissan was to lower their prices, I think they would sell a lot more of these. I think that it is a fantastic vehicle and it should be an affordable EV for families. I think that that's the target market that they need to focus on. And if they could just get the price down, I think they would sell tons of them.
Check this out. Perfect amount of space for a cowboy hat. We got Kim and we got Kimball. If you know, you know.
Liam has got the entire...
Not entire.
not the entire. He's got the Tesla fleet.
He's missing the next gen Model 3, aren't we all? So it's that time in the car ride where I'm gonna switch places with my husband, let him drive for a little while, and get his thoughts on the Nissan Ariya.
I like it overall. I think it's a pretty nice EV, honestly. As far as the interior perspective, kind of the mixed messages that we're getting inside this EV, it's underwhelming is what you said initially, and I kind of agree with that, because you get this really premium steering wheel, you've got the center divide that gives that performance feel, but then that's kind of mixed in together with this trim that is, you know, plastic disguised as wood, and then you have this beautiful piping on the side of the trim as well, and then that's kind of mixed in with the seat controls that are manual levers. So again, you get this combination of nice touches all over the vehicle and then super cheapened down touches that come with it. That's kind of what I've seen as far as the interior, but overall it's a really quiet ride. It's a really comfortable ride. We're going 75, 76 miles an hour here, and it's, you know, road noise is really minimal. And the ProPilot feature is by far my favorite. One of my favorite, honestly, in most EVs we've tested. It's incredibly agile, it works really well, it's really easy to initiate, and it handles really well as well. It struggles a little bit on windy roads, but beyond that, it's one of the better driver assist features that I've tried out.
So there's plenty to like about the Ariya, but there's also plenty it could improve on as competition increases. So we'll have to wait to see if Nissan, who at one point beat Tesla to the market with the world's first mass market and best-selling EV, could once again get back to the top. Alright guys, thanks for watching to the end. Please be sure to share this video and subscribe for more entertaining EV content like this. I'll be at the Cybertruck delivery event in the coming weeks, and I'll take you behind the scenes. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.
When they first released the Cybertruck, they said there'd be free seats in the front.
Let me see.
There's free seats in the front desk. Now they said they will not put it in the front.
There's also a yoke in here.
Yeah, yoke. If you look super close.
Everything we wish the Cybertruck would have been, but it's still pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
And check it out, there's enough room for her to have a temper tantrum, kick her legs around, and not put things on her coffee table. Don't you love being a parent? It's amazing. Best job in the world.